How to avoid a fueling disaster on your turbo trainer this winter. This is something that I see happen a lot at this time of year. Riders who have been doing longer rides out on the road now through the spring and summer, as they transition onto their turbo trainer or their indoor training through the winter, actually think because those rides aren't going to be as long, insufficiently fuel, and then because of this actually find, certainly if they're trying to improve power fitness, doing maybe some interval training through the winter, some threshold to VO2 max intervals, that when they're actually performing those sessions, really low in energy, not being able to then actually hit those target powers and intensities, which is then actually preventing them from having good quality training sessions and seeing a real plateau or their progress with their power stagnating, and then actually the whole winter of training being wasted, not necessarily because of fitness, but actually down to insufficient fueling, which causes this. So today I just really wanted to run through, you may be looking to do some winter training now, actually setting out some threshold VO2 max intervals. Certainly if you've been following me on this channel for a while now, I've given you maybe a structure, you've followed some of those earlier videos, you've laid out your structure now, you know exactly what you're going to be doing. Today I just wanted to dive into that pre, during and post-ride fueling on how you can ensure you're actually going into those key sessions, which are really going to help you improve your power and fitness with energy, feeling really strong, good energy levels, which will allow you to then confidently complete those sessions, have really good quality intervals, and actually, as I say, hit those target powers and intensities and spend the time at the right intensity so you see some really good gains with your power and fitness this winter. And then you can actually take this fueling strategy, because you've practiced it over the winter on the trainer in that more closed, controlled environment, start implementing it out on the road and see the same benefits there. So let's get straight into it. So firstly, we're going to start with pre-ride fueling. As I say, today I'm going to break it down into the pre-ride fueling, during ride fueling, and post-ride fueling. Okay, so we're just going to say pre-fuel to begin with. Now, what I'm basing this off of, the pre-ride fueling, is a session, should we say that's an hour to an hour and a half in length, basically. And we're fueling for a session that's going to include some threshold or VO2 max intervals, okay? Slightly different of how you may fuel a zone 2 ride or a 60 to 90 minute zone 2 ride. That's for another video today. Just as I said at the start there, really want to focus on how to actually you can fuel and make sure that you're getting the right amounts of fueling to have a really good threshold or VO2 max session, so you can actually hit those higher target powers and intensities, which are going to allow you to improve your FTP, your climbing, and all the great things that are associated with that as well. So really, for any 60 to 90 minute threshold or VO2 max session, pre-ride, we want to be targeting 1 to 1.5 grams of carbohydrate per kg of your body weight. Okay, so really simple terms, if you're a 100 kg rider, that means that we want to have 100 grams of carbohydrate pre the ride. And what's really key here is we want to be starting this process really even like 2-3 hours before the ride. Or just to break that down even more and help be more specific with you, because I imagine you may train at different times, or people on this channel might be busy professionals, executive business owners, or just generally really busy, have a family. Some of you may have to train at like 5-6 o'clock in the morning, which trying to consume 100 grams of carbohydrate at 5-6 o'clock in the morning presents a problem, or it's quite hard to obviously consume that amount of carbs at that time. So what you can do to tackle this here is split this with the evening prior. So let's just say, for example, on a Wednesday morning, you have your VO2 max session for the week that you're going to be performing, and you really, doing a VO2 max session at that time in the morning, you're going to want to make sure that you've got energy available, as I say, to really have a good quality session. But consuming 100 grams of carbohydrate at that time can be hard. So if you're doing that session on the Wednesday morning, what I want you to try and do, and I found this has worked so well, just not with my own riding, but the hundreds of clients and individuals that we help identify fueling strategies that fits in with their lifestyle, so you can still get the most from your training, but run business, do your job, be a family member, mother, father, whatever that may be, is actually finding that strategy what works. So if it's a Wednesday morning, we're doing the VO2 max session. What we want to do is on the Tuesday evening, let's just split this here. Tuesday, this is where on the Tuesday, for example, in the evening, you might have between, shall we say, 70 to 80 grams of carbs in your evening meal on the Tuesday. And in the evening, as part of a meal, it's a lot easier for you to actually consume that amount of carbohydrate rather than trying to do it at 5-6 o'clock in the morning on the Wednesday. So in that evening meal, you want to go for some high carbohydrate sources. So that might be like some pasta, potatoes, rice, wholemeal breads, grains, whatever you can try and get into that meal. And the great thing with that is as well, if you have got a family, that actually that's a meal that on a Tuesday evening, the rest of the family, like ones that just instantly just sprung into my mind there for some reason, like spaghetti bolognese. I don't know why, but spaghetti bolognese, you can get some spaghetti in there, pasta, you're getting some good carbohydrate, and that's a meal that you can actually eat with the family, which when I speak to a lot of individuals, they actually find it quite hard to sometimes think, how am I going to improve my fueling, lose weight, and still be able to eat with the family? Well, straight away there, this is how you can actually start to implement that as well. So Tuesday evening, and because you've actually had 70 to 80 grams of carbohydrates on the Tuesday evening, that means on the Wednesday morning before your ride, that you really then only need to consume, should we say, 20 to 30 grams of carbs early in the morning. And that is a lot easier to actually consume at that time. That can be done in the form of, wake up in the morning, have your cup of coffee, quick double espresso, a banana. Banana generally has anything between 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrate. You may even go straight into actually having some carbohydrate powder in your bottle that you can start drinking. You might have an energy bar, you might have a gel, whatever works best for you. But trying to get 20 to 30 grams, most energy bars or gels will have around 25 grams of carbohydrates on average. And by doing it this way, you've actually achieved that 100 grams as the minimum. If you're 100 kilos and you take in, what I want you to try and focus on is really a minimum of 1 gram per carbohydrate per kg of body weight. You might need to play around with this, but generally a minimum of 1 gram, if you're not already doing it, I'd encourage you to do so, as that's going to really help you just ensure you've got that energy there. And then you've actually split it between the Tuesday and the Wednesday, and that amount has been a lot easier for you to consume if you're somebody that has to train very early in the morning, because you just know if you don't get it done in the morning, then it's going to be a really busy day, and the chance of actually completing that session is going to really reduce, and then that's obviously going to affect your consistency and your progress with everything there as well. Just another example then here with that 100 grams, if you are somebody who does have to train in the evening, like for the morning for you, it's just not possible to do, for whatever reason, if you do have the chance to train, I would encourage you to train in the morning, as I say, because it really does just limit anything then getting in the way for the rest of the day, whether it's a meeting comes into your calendar, kids need taken somewhere, family needs something, other commitments in your life. But if you do have to train in the evening, then again, trying to consume 100 grams of carbohydrates an hour and a half before your ride, if you're doing it at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, can also be quite tough. So the best way to think of this here, if you're doing it in the evening, is at lunchtime, like I just said to you, we take that example before, and where we had on the Tuesday evening our bigger meal, we're now on the Wednesday, because you're fueling during the day for a Wednesday evening ride, is that this is where you'll try to have that around 70 to 80 grams of carbohydrates as part of your lunch. It's a lot easier to do whether you're in the office, working from home. Try to get a meal there. That might be, it might be you need to grab like a wholemeal baguette, sandwich or something on the go with some carbohydrates in there. You might make something like a tuna pasta with rice, tuna sweet corn, some rice, some pasta, trying to get just some good carbohydrate sources in there. And you can start this process from lunchtime onwards, which actually then allows you to start topping up those muscle and liver glycogen stores from, say, around 12 o'clock in the day. By the time you then come to do your session in the evening, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, you've already topped those up and you've got some really good energy levels there. What you then can do to top this up prior to going to that session, because that is also quite a long time. If you're eating at lunch at around 12 o'clock and you're not doing your session until 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, that's a 6 to 7 hour, obviously, gap there. So you can then also have like a mid-afternoon snack just to actually top up, like we said, when in the previous example, when you were waking up early in the morning, the afternoon snack. And again, this might be 20 to 30 grams of carbs. And you could then have this, should we say, an hour to an hour and a half before the session, just to top up with this amount here. So you're not going literally 6, 7 hours without having anything. And again, that might be mid to late afternoon. You have an energy bar, banana, get home, quick slice of toast with some jam on it, just to get some carbohydrates, some sugar in prior to the session. Or my last minute fueling hack that I always say is literally, just make up some carbohydrates in a bottle. If you're on the train home out the city, if you're driving back home to do your session, or you've been working at home and you've just been stuck at your laptop all day, if you just make up some of your carbohydrate powder, we're going to get onto that more specifically in during ride fueling in a moment, some options there. But you can literally just make that up, drink that up. A lot of those carbohydrate fueling sort of powders and things have around 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates in them anyway. So that allows you to really accumulate that 100 grams. And what this does, it just ensures muscle and liver glycogen levels are topped up really well, so that when you actually get on the bike and you hit that first interval, that's the normally telltale, right? Whether you've actually fueled sufficiently or not. If you've had a long day or you're getting up early in the morning to do a session, you hit that first VO2 max interval, you start that first threshold interval, and you just feel the legs are hollow and they haven't got any energy, and you know your fueling hasn't been very good, that's the reason why. So that can be the make or break. If that continues to happen every session, then you're almost just wasting weeks and weeks and weeks of training through insufficient fueling. So really starting yourself off, good pre-ride fueling can be the make or break of a good session, and there's some things there to help you, hopefully. Great. If you find this useful, hit a like on the video. Hopefully, if you're not already doing something, I mean, some of you might be pre-ride fueling well, some of you might be during ride fueling, post-ride fueling, but we're going to go through all of this today. So stick with me. So next, during ride, really crucial. Every single one of these is really, really crucial. So during ride fuel. During fuel, we'll just put there, okay? So during fuel. So the key here really, to make it really simple to understand, this session that we're focusing on today is an hour to an hour and a half, 60 to 90 minute threshold or VO2 max session, okay? So an absolute minimum that I want you to consume in that session is 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate. Absolute minimum, okay? And as I say, at the start of the video, this is where a lot of people go wrong, because they think, oh, I've been doing, 4, 5, 6 hour endurance rides out on the road all summer. I don't really need to actually go and fuel for a shorter high intensity interval session. But as you may be watching this, you may have already been caught out with this if you've already started your autumn and winter training. You still need to be having 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Absolutely crucial, okay? How do we achieve this? Now, I would always go with a liquid, a fluid option, certainly for a threshold or VO2 max session, okay? Now, the reason for that is the absorption rates on that are a lot faster if it's in fluid form, actually getting that carbohydrate, that glucose, glycogen into the muscle so it can actually be used as fuel during a short window of 60, 90 minute session. But secondly, it's really thinking when you're doing a threshold or a VO2 max session, you're going to be quite sweaty, you're certainly going to be breathing a lot heavier. So actually trying to eat something during those types of sessions, your breathing is going to be heavy, you'll probably end up spitting more of that back out than you will actually consuming it and eating it. And the solid will take quite a lot longer to digest, okay? So I would always say, try to have carbohydrate powder in your fluid. There's loads out there. There's hundreds of different sports brands out there, nutritional brands that you can use. I would just recommend that you go for something that suits your personal preference in terms of taste and what's in there. But really, and most of them do have 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates in now. Just make sure it's got that amount in. The bonus with this as well is that during fuel, we want to still be ensuring that we're having 500, so let's just say for our 60 to 90 minute session, 500 to 750 millilitres of fluid per hour. Okay, so really if you think, 750 millilitres, so you get your 750 millilitre bottle. If you're doing a session that's an hour and a half in length, you want to be drinking that, okay? And that's crucial as well. You're going to be sweating a lot more than I imagine you do out on the road. Indoor training, we generally tend to sweat more, even if you've got a really good, cooling system or fan or something that you're using in your pain cave. We need to make sure that we're replenishing those fluids, and if you can have a little bit of electrolyte in there as well. For the shorter rides, okay, electrolytes probably not going to get caught out as much, but still some, sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, but certainly sodium is just going to help if you are somebody who does sweat a lot and actually suffers with cramp. I've worked with riders, I've worked with individuals who even on a 60-minute session have been getting cramp, certainly when they're doing harder threshold or VO2 max efforts. So, 100%, a little bit of sodium in your bottle combined with the fluid is going to be great for that. You can use a gel, for example. A good session that I've gone through in the past, if you're doing like a 2 times 16 minute threshold session, or 2 times 20 minute, 2 basically 20 minute threshold efforts, then gels can be useful if you get on with gels. Like if you're doing like an 8 to 10 minute recovery period in the middle of that block, then you could hit a gel. So you actually, because if you're doing a sustained type threshold effort, if you're working on your climbing or something there, then just trying to get some more carbohydrates in for a gel can really help with that sustained type effort, and then combine that with some fluid as well. That will really help. Okay, but combining all of this together is absolutely crucial. And there's a lot of, as I say, powders, carbohydrate powders, electrolyte powders out there that will give you between 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate that you can mix with 500 to 750 milliliters of fluid, and it will also contain some sodium or electrolytes in it as well. And what this does is it just ensures that even though you've done a really good job with your pre-ride fueling, you're keeping topped up through the session. But where I see a lot of individuals get caught out is, let's just say you're doing 4 times 4 VO2 max intervals, that third or fourth VO2 max interval, if your pre-ride fueling hasn't been really too good, or I've even seen this happen, riders have they've hit their 1 to 1.5 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight pre-ride, but that third and fourth interval is just really, they're then struggling to maintain power. And a lot of that time is also down to fueling. If they're doing that session really first thing in the morning, or you've had a really long day, physically, mentally a long day, you just need that fuel to actually be able to complete that full set of intervals to get, again, the most from that session and really maximize what you're getting from the session there. Okay, during ride. Key to success. If you start to implement this and you haven't been doing it already, I was having this conversation on one of our Q&A sessions last night with some of our clients, our coaching clients. And, just some of these tweaks alone, without actually, spending, months and months and months trying to improve your fitness, if you haven't already been doing it and you implement some of these amounts into your fueling at the moment, you can improve your power output just by fueling better without having to train for 3 months, just by actually spending a bit of time, paying a bit more attention to fueling, trying to implement some of these habits that I'm going through today, you'll instantly see an increase in power, and that without actually, for the shortest amount of time or effort that you actually need to put in rather than training 3 months. So 100% will help. Finally then, post-ride. So post-ride fueling, pen's gone a bit, coming back. Post-fuel. Now the post-fuel is key for a couple of reasons. Now, I'm just going to go over that there. The first thing is recovery, 100%. So it's recovery. So if you are somebody who struggles with your recovery, then I'm going to take this off. Don't like that. If you're somebody who struggles with your recovery, then this is 100% going to help as well. As that recovery can actually be catching you out in terms of it might be taking you, 48 hours or 2, 3, 4 days to recover from a hard session. So this is where post-ride fueling can really help. Okay. The body has just done a hard session. You've really exerted it. You've done some damage to that muscle tissue. So it's absolutely crucial that within 30 to 60 minutes of finishing your session, you are having between 20 and 30 grams, okay, of protein. Absolutely crucial. Ideally 25, but yeah, there's a range there. Different products have different amounts of protein. And you want to be having this 30 to 60 minutes after finishing the session. Now, the easiest way, again, the highest absorption rates with this has been shown to do it in a liquid form, which tends to be done through like a whey protein shake, a whey isolate shake, or something like that, rather than trying to get 20 to 30 grams of protein in, getting off the bike in your sweaty gear, going and cooking up some eggs or trying to make a meal that's got that amount of protein in. The easiest way is to literally just get off the bike, quickly have your shower, or do it before you have your shower, whatever works best for you. Literally make up your protein shake, drink that. That gets that 20 to 30 grams of protein. And then what that does is if the muscle's already had some damage done to it, that is the window where muscle protein uptake or muscle absorption rates are at their highest. They'll absorb that protein. It just helps initiate that recovery process and ensures that is there to help reduce that soreness. It's not going to completely reduce the soreness. There's lots of other things that come into recovery, but from a fueling standpoint, 20 to 30 grams of protein, 30 to 60 minutes after finishing the session is absolutely key. Now, the other reason why this is really good is if you're somebody who's looking to lose some weight as well, you've done a hard session, and by the time you actually know that you're going to get to your next full meal is like an hour, 2, maybe even 3 hours, that's where that starvation or those cravings can really come in. Like if you just get off the bike, you don't eat anything for an hour, 2 hours, and by the time you finally come to eat, your body's in that starvation mode, and it's just craving calories. And then you've done really good training session, you've put some really good work in there, you've burnt some calories, but because your body's in that starvation mode, it just overeats and actually ends up probably eating more calories than you've burnt during a training session. So what this does is it acts as a window. So say this is when you finish your training session, and this is where we actually get to your first well-balanced meal plate that you're going to get to after finishing a training session. The protein shake, or as we say, this 25 grams of protein actually acts as a bridge from that point. So when you finish your session to when you actually get to having that meal. And what tends to happen is if we don't consume this, this is where a lot of snacking starts to occur. Unwanted calories, really, because the body, as I said, is just really, really hungry. It's had nothing to eat after the training session. It's, muscle, liver glycogen has also dropped down a little bit as well, certainly if you've been doing some hard threshold efforts. So this is where a lot of snacking happens, and then by the time you actually come to that meal, you overeat. Whereas the 25 grams of protein there within your shake, it acts as, yeah, you've had something to eat, the receptors in the body will think, yeah, right, I've actually had something as well. That you know that you can then go for an hour, hour and a half before you come to this. And when you actually come to this meal, your appetite has been suppressed a little bit because it's had some protein. Protein is shown to that high sources of protein suppress appetite down a little bit, make you feel fuller for longer, and you're then a lot more in control of that meal, which you can then follow up well-balanced meal with some carbs, proteins, and fats to actually then complement recovery and post-ride fueling with that as well. Okay? Yeah, so there we go. If you haven't already been implementing some of these things, as I literally just said, you will see instant gains in your power, your fitness, how you're feeling in your training sessions. And yeah, if you found that useful today, then please drop a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, by the way, welcome. Ben from My Cycling Coach. Why do I make these videos? Been doing this now for the past 10 years. The science, the research, the practical application, with working with hundreds of individuals to help them hit 3 watts per kilo and beyond with weight loss, increasing power, fitness, FTP. There'll be a link on the page somewhere. If you want an individual strategy for this, by the way, that's part of what we do. We talk to you. We say, right, when are you training? What's the time that you've got available? What does your week look like from a Monday to Sunday? And we help, 1, build you a bespoke training structure, but 2, actually then a bespoke fueling structure. So say, if you're somebody who trains at 5 o'clock in the morning, that actually presents problems in itself. So it's understanding how to fuel for that. But hopefully some of these things have helped you with that today as well. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Trying to put out as much as I can this winter to help you achieve your goals. If it has, then I've done my job. And yeah, keep up the great work. I'll see you in the next video.